Welcome to the summit, everybody. How you doing? Good. Glad to see you back here. You glad to be back? I know I am. Well, Happy New Year to everybody. I got to ask this question. You probably saw it on whatever social media you follow, but did anybody else experience that weird limbo of time and space, and we didn't know what we were doing between Christmas and New Year's? That's like one of my favorite times of the year, where it doesn't matter where I am. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So I hope you got to enjoy that. My name is James. I'm the online church pastor here at the Summit. And if it's your first time with us, then welcome. We're so glad you're here. And if it's your first time online, thank you for joining us there. We've got a guest services team here to help you. They got yellow shirts on. They're outside. You can ask them questions. And we've got a person in the chat online for you if you got questions there, so feel free to ask. We are kicking off a brand new series today. We're super excited about it. It's called Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. It's all about decision making. And I'm not saying that's the best way to make a decision, but we've all done it, let's be honest. But we thought it'd be fun. You know, we like to have fun. If you're new here, you may not know this, but we like to have a lot of fun here at the Summit. So we thought we'd play a little game with you guys called Would You Rather? Yes. So here we go. We'll start off easy. I say easy, I don't know. Some of these are still hard. Would you rather go a year without sugar or a year without salt? Y'all just jumped right on it. I'm going to have to think about that. But I think I would go sugar. But it seems like it's a mixed bag. It's been a mixed bag for most services on that one. Okay, next. Would you rather speak to a huge crowd or hold a huge snake? I hear more crowds than snakes. I would rather speak to a bajillion of you than hold any size snake. Yeah, no thank you on the snake. All right, we're getting a little more difficult now. You ready for this? Would you rather, hey, you guys online, feel free to play along too. Type in your answers in chat. I want to see these later. Would you rather have only 2 long front teeth or no teeth at all? No teeth. No teeth. So I asked the band this on Thursday, and they said that they would rather have no teeth because they just go get dentures or something. So I guess if dentures are an option, at least I don't have to deal with the 2 long front teeth. Okay, we're getting harder. We're getting harder. Would you rather have fingers as long as your legs or legs as long as your fingers? This is a terrible, what was it? What would you say? Fingers as long as your legs? I mean, at least you can like reach stuff without really having to go for it. I don't know. That's a terrible thing to have to choose between, I think. But not as bad as this one. Would you rather drink a cup of toilet water from the bowl or drink a liter of hot sauce in one sitting? Y'all got some incredible intestinal fortitude if you can handle a liter of hot sauce. And I think I'm going with the toilet water, I'm gonna be honest. At least I can look, I don't know. Anyway, well, we do like to have fun. And like I said, if it's your first time with us here or online, I'm sorry. But we do like to have fun like that. I know one thing that all of you, and myself included, would rather not do, and that would be go through life without friends and people to support you. What I'm talking about is groups. Coming up in February, we're kicking off our group stuff again with a new series there. Well, before we go any further talking about that, I want you guys to check out the screens for this special group coming up.
Brittany came up to me after church one day. She mentioned something about Financial Peace University, and I figured if we could take what is so taboo to talk about, like money, finances in a marriage, and turn it into a positive, especially doing it through the church, if we could tackle that giant, then, I mean, it would only make us stronger in our marriage.
After we got married and we're kind of looking at how much debt we both had, it kind of got me thinking, you know, we can do better than this. I had already decided I was going to retire within a year, so our goal became then to become debt-free.
I didn't think it was possible.
And honestly, I didn't think it was possible. If you literally put that kind of debt down on paper and look at it logistically, the numbers just didn't add up.
You know, we knew that we wanted a family. We knew that we wanted a home. And we didn't really know how to get to those things, and actually sitting down and being able to see those steps on paper and seeing the goals that you have. And yes, it may take you this amount of time to get there, but look what you'll have at the end of it.
You know, everybody in our class was so helpful to everyone else. And especially with us being the youngest, you know, they would tell us like, hey, you know, you've got such a great opportunity here to set a strong foundation and build on. And seeing that, how crippling debt can be, just seeing the hold that it can have on you, having upwards of 20 credit cards, and seeing the relief of paying everything off.
When I wrote that last check for the mortgage, it was just like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was so freeing. It was an incredible feeling.
For us to do this, when at the beginning of the year, when we realized that we had a very narrow window, and I'm thinking, this is not realistic that we can be debt-free by the end of the year. And to do it in half a year, that's God.
Yeah, that was God in that. It's just taking so much stress out of our lives.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. I think it would make just a huge difference in young people's lives.
And not just young people, not just young married people, single people.
Yes.
People with children can instill these principles in their children young, and they're ahead of the game.
Retirement was never even a thought for me. I thought I'd work till the day I died. You know, now I know the steps I need to take to get to that point, to where, you know, I can say, hey guys, this is my last day.
My biggest regret was that, you know, I didn't follow these principles early on in life, not to build wealth for myself, but I think back at the opportunities I had to help people along the way that I missed by not being a better steward of God's blessings.
When I gave God control of my finances, He showed me that, yeah, this might be a little overwhelming, but it's achievable. You know, you can have money left over at the end of the month after everything's paid. You know, if you trust me with this, I will provide for you. It's been one of the best moves I've ever made.
So that group is Financial Peace University. If that's something that you're interested in, you can go to our website or the app if you've got it, and you need to get it if you don't have the app. And you can find out all the information about how to sign up for that group. And I believe there's actually some people out in the lobby for that as well. But the stories that I hear time after time from people who've been through that are just amazing. So transformational for families. So check that out if you're not in a group. And even if you are in a group and you want to hit pause on that for a little bit, go check that out. It's a 9-week course. Change your life. Groups will change your life too, though. So get signed up in something no matter what you do. You can text Circle Up to 41411 to get in a group. Guys, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I want to invite you guys to stand up. We're going to sing with the awesome band behind me. Let's go.
We're heaven's fun creation, His pride and adoration, treasures woven by His love. His careful hands, they hold us safe within His promise of calling and of destiny. Come on, sing that again. We're heaven's fun creation, His pride and adoration, treasures woven by His love. His careful hands, they hold us safe within His promise of calling and of destiny.
I will sing So no matter what last year was like for you, as we're here kicking off this new year together, let's find hope in these words as we sing this out. There won't be a day that you're not by my side. There won't be a day that you let me fall. In all of my life, your love will be true. And with all of our lives, we will worship you. There won't be a day that you're not by my side. There won't be a day that you let me fall. In all of my life, your love will be true. You and all of our lives, we will worship you. We will worship you. We will worship you. Hey, thank you guys for singing with us. We're running out of room right now for seats for people to sit. So if there's an empty seat next to you and you can scoot in, help us out, that would be amazing. Let's keep singing together.
How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken. I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe, and out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Sing this out with us. This is why we sing. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe, and out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has
separate us from your love. No failure, no mistake, no loneliness or pain could ever separate us from your love. It could ever separate us from your love. On the other side of everything, I'm afraid you were standing with your arms wide open, wide open. Even in my deepest doubts and wonder, you were standing with your arms wide open, wide open. I'm healed, made strong. I found where I belong. Forever I'm alive now in your love. I'm changed, unchained by your amazing grace. Forever I'm alive now in your love. On the other side of everything, I'm afraid you were standing with your arms wide open, wide open. Even in my deepest doubts and wonder, you were standing with your arms wide open, wide open. If I make my bed in darkness, if I try my best to hide, you know the farthest ocean, you give the morning its light. I can't run from your presence, there's no place that far. So I run to you, my Savior, there's safety in your arms. If I make my bed in darkness, if I try my best to hide, you know the farthest ocean, you give the morning its light. I can't run from your presence, there's no place that far. So I run to you, my Savior, there's safety in your arms. There's safety in your arms, yeah. On the other side of everything, I'm afraid you are standing with your arms wide open, wide open. Even in my deepest doubts and wonder, you are standing with your arms wide open, wide open. On the other side of everything, sing this together. You were standing with your arms wide open. Even in my deepest doubts and wonder, you were standing with your arms wide open.
Thank you. You can be seated. I love to hear voices sing, especially about the love of God. It's amazing. I'm not sure if this is something you've done already, or if you just kind of went from Christmas to New Year's Eve to, the football games and the party and the ball drop and yay, and then the food and New Year's Day and all of that, and you haven't yet taken an opportunity to internalize the fact how God has got you through 2018, Because some of you had your doubts. It was at some point in 2018, you probably was like, I'm not sure what the near future holds for me. And yet, here you are. Maybe you have. Maybe you've already internalized that and seen 2019 as the tremendous opportunity it is. Whether you have or haven't, let's do that right now. Let's take an opportunity and go to God together. Thank Him for last year. Thank Him for the opportunity that is this new year. Because God is a God of new things, new grace, new mercy, new opportunity, new chances, new days. God is a God of the new. So a new year is a perfect opportunity for us to laser focus in on what matters most, especially starting a series where we talk about decisions. So let's decide right now to take a moment together. Let's pray. Father, thank you for 2018 and your sustaining grace, your faithfulness. I know there are people in this room and watching online that had their doubts whether or not they would make it sanely or maybe at all to the end of last year. And yet here we are. And we are so grateful that your unconditional, unfailing love surrounds us. And we thank you for the new year and the new opportunity that it's going to present us. May we receive more of your love so that we can share more of your love. And as we enter into a time where we talk about making decisions, give us clarity and a determination to make wise decisions. Father, as we look ahead, not knowing what's going to happen in 2019, it is so comforting to know that you're already there. You go before us so that you can walk with us through anything we face. So we're asking your blessings on this new year. In Jesus' name, amen. In the final minutes leading up to midnight on New Year's Eve, Steve was staring at the clock nervously, trying to finalize his New Year's resolutions, and then it hit him. He knew what he needed to do, so he jumped up, ran out the front door, across the yard, across the street to his neighbor's house, Carl. Knocks on the front door. Carl comes to the front door, says, "Hey, Steve." Steve says, "Hey, Carl. I've decided and resolved to be a much nicer person in the new year. So I felt like I needed to pop over real quick and let you know that you're a real moron." I've been holding on to that one all week long. Yeah, New Year's resolutions, they're really decisions, right? They're all about decisions. And when you're a kid, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo pretty much gets you where you need to be. The red sucker or the green sucker. And then there's always the outlier of the yellow sucker, and none of us really know what that tastes like because we never chose that one. It's just like, yellow, really? And I know you did. But when you grow into adulthood, as you get a little bit older, you realize that's not going to cut it. This little Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo thing, I need something a little bit more because we make decisions all the time. All day long, one decision after another. All week long, month long, year long. It's not just a New Year's kind of thing. We make decisions all the time. Often we make decisions without even thinking. They're like automatic, even habitual. And we don't even really put time into it, right? It's just the same. We do the same thing all the time. A recent USA Today poll, I found this fascinating. Fun fact, USA Today poll recently found that 69% of all adults in America eat the same meals every week. How about that for boring? Right? Because, I know what's good, and I just keep doing what I know, what is familiar to me. Other decisions are well thought out and planned and executed. That's great. Some plans are easy to make. Some decisions are easy to make. Other decisions are very challenging to make. Some decisions are so serious, we call them matters of life and death. Yeah, right. Some decisions are short-term, like the deodorant you use. Right? It's very short-term. It's going to wear off. And somebody's having an epiphany right now, like, that's what I forgot. We know. I just brought that up so that you would. Other decisions are long-term, marriage. Some decisions are eternal. What am I going to do with God? How am I going to respond to His Son, Jesus Christ? Many of you may be in like a pending decision moment right now. You came in here, hoping for a bright light, and we got you covered on that, right? Or seriously, you're hoping for some clarity because you're in a pending decision right now, and you're not quite sure. What do I do? What do I do? Maybe you're delaying. Maybe you're trying to just kind of wait until the last minute. Maybe you're procrastinating. But you got decisions in your life, and you feel maybe that you're under a time crunch, and it's just like, I don't know. Perhaps you're in a period of indecision, and you're not quite sure whether to go this way or that way. I'm telling you, this whole decision stuff, this is a massive topic, isn't it? And there's so much that's been written on it. Not just from the spiritual side of things, but even the business side, psychologically, people write books on this kind of stuff. All these different realms weigh in on decision making, and there's some fantastic stuff out there that you can read. I encourage you to learn all you can about decision making. So we're not going to cover everything. There's no way we can cover everything. But what we hope to do in this series is give you some handlebars so that you can, pedal your life across the street with some better decisions than maybe you've made in 2018, to get better at this thing. Now, growing up in church, to be honest, we really never talked about decision making all that much. Other than this, they would tell us, do what's right, okay, right? Or do what God wants you to do. Well, that's a surprise, I'm in church, right? And that's about it. Then we never got anything much more beyond that. And so we want to give you more than just that. We're going to talk about those kinds of things, but much more. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about decision making a little bit, because there's some things that you kind of need to know on the front end before you get into the nitty-gritty process of making decisions. And then for the next 3 weeks, week 2, 3, and 4 in this 4-week series, we're going to get really practical and give you some how-tos. And we're going to see what God has to say to us about all this, because there's so much we can learn. And what I want us to do today, to kind of lay a foundation for where we need to go, not just today, but for the next several weeks. And I want us to go back into ancient Israel just for a moment, the Old Testament scriptures, and hear the words of King Solomon, the wisest man that ever lived, outside of Jesus Christ himself, yet made some very unwise decisions. He wasn't perfect by any means. The wisest man that ever lived has some very interesting things to say. And most of what he wrote to his children, his sons and daughters, because he wanted to help equip them to make good decisions. Because he knew, being so wise, that your life goes the directions of the decisions you make. So if we can make wise decisions and better decisions, our life will go in a better direction. At least that's the idea. This one thing I want us to highlight this morning is something specifically that King Solomon learned from his dad, King David. And he tells his kids, when he's writing, he's saying, listen, this is something I learned from Dad, and I pass it on to you just like Dad taught me. And it's kind of served as like the theme of everything he wrote in in Proverbs, which is the book we're going to be reading from. But then he goes on and writes Ecclesiastes. It's another book of wisdom. It's interesting stuff. So much of this is about wisdom, and he's sharing this with his children. So thankfully, he wrote it down so that we can learn from what he was sharing with his kids. And he said, my dad taught me, I'm going to teach you, get wisdom. Get wisdom and develop good judgment. Get wisdom and develop good judgment. Now, here's what's interesting. A lot of times we forget that wisdom is something we can get. We can get more of it than we have. I mean, a lot of times people assume you either got it or you don't. And if you do, great. And if you don't, oh, too bad for you. That's not true. Whatever amount of wisdom you currently have, you can increase that amount of wisdom. And you can develop good judgment. More than you have now. What is good judgment? Good judgment is knowing how to take what wisdom you have and apply it to real life. Good judgment is understanding how to take what you know and put it into real life scenarios. Get wisdom, develop good judgment. And then just a little bit below that, after saying a couple of other things, he circles back around to this, says it again in a different way. So repetition is for emphasis. He wants to make sure his kids get this. And he says it this way. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. He wants them to get it. It kind of sounds like a deathbed kind of thing, right? This sounds like the kind of thing you would tell your kids or your grandkids right before you die. You say that whatever you do, use good judgment, develop good judgment, get wisdom. The wiser you can be, the better off you are. Why would King Solomon put so much emphasis on wisdom and good judgment? Because those are the things that it takes to make good decisions. That's what great decisions are made of. Wisdom and the application of wisdom through good judgment. Now, what makes this tricky for me and you is that we all deal with three things. We all deal with the desire to get it right. And we definitely want to get it right. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get it right. Whatever decision you're making, you want to get it right. Getting it right is better than getting it wrong, right? Nobody wants to be wrong. I don't know anyone that purposefully wants to be wrong. We want to get it right. And we also deal with fear. Fear. I'm a pastor. Sometimes I deal with fear. Fear that I don't know what's going to happen next. And I'm not sure if I should do this or do that because I don't know what's going to happen next. Or maybe I do know what's going to happen next. I have a pretty good idea. If I say this, then they're going to do this. Or if I do this, then they're going to do that. And it kind of creates this apprehensive fear, right? You say, well, I don't ever fear because I'm a Christian. Well, you're a clueless Christian because the rest of us deal with fear. It's just real, right? It's just real. And so we all want to get it right. That's what makes this whole thing challenging because no matter what, we want to be right? And sometimes that kind of takes us off course. And we deal with fear and doubt. My goodness. You make the decision. You gut up and you make a decision. And you're thinking, whew, the decision's made. But that's not what we do, right? We make the decision, then we go, oh, I wonder if I made the right decision. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And then when things start happening, you're like, what if? I'm not sure. Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have done that. We second guess ourselves to death. That's what makes this so difficult. And then there's this outlier, this other category that you might be in right now, and you're thinking, it's great. It's fantastic that you're wanting to talk about good decision making. Thanks. I'm sure a lot of people need that. But what if I've already made bad decisions? What if I've already screwed up? What if I'm already dealing with the shrapnel and the fallout of some very poor decisions in my life? And that, to be honest, man, that's why I'm here. Because I'm hoping to turn some things around because I really messed some things up. What do I do if I've already made some bad decisions? I don't know. Tough. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see if you were listening. Yeah. You know what? You're not alone. Every single one of us have made some bad decisions. Every single one of us has made poor decisions. And here's what you need to know. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. Start making better decisions right now. Now, do you still have to deal with the consequences of the poor decisions from the past? Yeah. Those don't get removed. You still have to deal with the negative consequences that come with the poor decisions you make. But you can start making better decisions today, and here's what that means. You can't go and change the past. You can't go back and change the past, but you can, through better decisions, change the future. Did you know that? So what's the future like? I don't know, but you can influence the future. You can change the future with the decisions that you make. And so as we approach this whole thing of wanting to increase wisdom and better judgment, what I want to do for the rest of our time is to talk about some things you need to know before you start making some decisions. Some things that you need to put in place, at least mentally, to understand. And once you and I understand these things, we'll be set up to start making wiser decisions and develop much better judgment than maybe we did in 2018. So whatever decision you're getting ready to make, whatever decision it is you're mulling over and you're kind of circling around, whether it's a financial decision or a career move or an education decision, college or not, and which college, or maybe it's a relationship decision. You know, do we get married? Do I choose him? Do I choose her? I wish I had someone to choose. Whatever, right? Or a health decision. It doesn't matter what kind of decision you're making. Know this before you decide that decision, whatever decision it is. It's so very important for you to think about the decision you're getting ready to make, because often we don't think, we just do. We don't think, we just make a decision. And if you will just think about some things and settle some things on the front side, then it will not only kind of remove some pressure from the decision-making process. I'm not saying it gets easy all of a sudden, but it removes some pressure, but it brings clarity of focus. So let's start. Here we go. Know this before you decide that. This is about wisdom. This is about good judgment. Ultimately, you can't control outcomes. Ultimately. Now just hang with me, okay? Hang with me. I'm going to take you somewhere. Ultimately, you can't control outcomes. This is one of the most maddening yet freeing principles. Ultimately, you cannot control outcomes. And let me tell you why that's odd, because I'll admit right up front, that's an odd thing to say in a decision-making series, because the whole reason we make decisions to begin with is to achieve certain outcomes, right? The whole reason you decide to do this is because you want that to happen. And you decide not to do this is because you don't want that to happen. We make decisions to try to achieve a certain outcome. So for me to say that ultimately you can't control outcomes seems like, what? And we often look at the outcome to decide whether or not we made a really good decision, right? We see what happens and then we go, that was a good decision. I'm so glad I said that. I'm so glad I did that. Or we wait to see what happens, husbands, don't we? And we see the look on our wife's face and we go, oh, shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have said that, shouldn't have said that. Can I get that back? You know, and she's like, no, I can't. And so to say I can't control outcomes, what is that about in decision making? Here's what it's about. You can set the direction of your life with decisions, but you cannot ultimately control results of the things that happen around you with decisions. That's why we say things like, but I thought it was going to go like this. That's why I did that. Or we say things like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming. Why do we say the phrase, I didn't see that coming? Because we expected to see something else based upon the decisions that we made prior. But now, oh man, I didn't see that coming. I had no idea. Or I wish I would have known before I made the decision. You see, you can't ultimately control outcomes. Let me tease this out just a moment. Let's say you decide to go on a vacation, so you put money back. You save money. That's a decision. You want to set the direction of a good, great vacation by setting money aside. You save money so you can go on a vacation. It's a great thing to do. Hope you can do that. But then you get that unexpected thing that happened. It broke, busted. Now you have to replace it. And that unexpected bill, paying that unexpected amount, there goes the vacation. You with me? You see, you set the direction of a great vacation, but ultimately you couldn't control the outcome. Or you want to get better sleep. You want to get more sleep. And we all know what you need to do if you need to get more sleep, right? You go to bed earlier. That's just the number one thing you try. I got to go to bed earlier. So you go to bed earlier because you got to get more sleep. And then you have a nightmare about snakes in your bed, like I did last week. Yeah, snake in my bed. I'm thinking, well, what do you do when there's a snake in your bed? You get out of bed, and then you get ready to get out of bed and see a bigger snake coiled up beside the bed. And so I did what all of us would do. I wake up. And I didn't go back to sleep the rest of the night. I'm like, man, I went to bed on time, even a little earlier because I needed extra sleep. I set the direction, but I couldn't control the outcome. Or you say, hey, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to get healthy. So you diet and exercise, diet and exercise, diet and exercise because, you want to be healthy. But here's the kicker. Healthy people die all the time. Healthy people die all the freaking time. They do. Right? How many stories do we know where he said, he had a heart attack? What was he doing? He was running his 4th marathon. So, okay. Or it was like we found out, had a hole in his heart, or he just died. Or a brain aneurysm, right? You can't plan for that kind of thing. Or how about this? Even the most healthy and fit person they get cancer anyway. You can set the direction. You should be healthy, but you ultimately cannot control the outcomes. This is very hard for me. Personally, because I'm a planner. I plan everything. It's just the way my mind works. It's the way my life works. And so, it's not like I can't be spontaneous. I can, but you got to let me plan for it. Right? I can do nothing with the best of them if you let me carve out some time to do nothing. But I got to plan for it. And so this is very challenging because I can plan, and then something breaks, right? Or people happen, and I'm needed over here or over there. Or a squirrel crawls up into my dryer vent, into my dryer hose, into my dryer, and then one of my daughters turns on the dryer and chops the squirrel up into a bazillion bits, and we don't find out about it until about 10 days later when the thing starts to stink. And your next well-planned week is shot. That happened. Thanks for listening. I'll tell you more about it later. Still not over it. Oh, wow. The deal is there's a difference between desired outcomes and controlled outcomes. Desired outcomes and controlled outcomes. Bottom line, you and I have to learn how to make the best decision we can with the information and the resources we have and leave the results ultimately up to God. And trust him with that. I'll say that again. You make decisions with the info you have and the resources you have, and ultimately you have to leave the results up to God. You got to get this and chill. Just chill. You ultimately cannot control the outcome, regardless of what decision you're going to make. Now, you can have a desired outcome and you can set the direction, but you are ultimately not in control of what happens. That's very important. Secondly, when you're making decisions, know this before you decide that, it's not about you. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. What is? Whatever decision you're getting ready to make, it's bigger than you. If it's a financial decision, it's bigger than you. It's going to affect more people than just you. If it's a career decision, it's bigger than you. It's going to affect the people in your life. The people that you've convinced yourself when you're making that decision for them, it's going to affect them, and maybe in ways that you don't anticipate. You need to think about that. Even the decision to diet and exercise, even to the decision to take care of yourself, which you should because it's honoring to God. It's bigger than you. It may determine how long you're around with those people that love you and depend on you and need you and how long you get to enjoy them. It's always bigger than you. Because see, we need to know this because I hear people say this all the time and I find myself thinking these kinds of things. Well, this is a me decision. This is just about me. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this to love me. I'm doing this because this is something I need to do. That's fine. You can tell yourself however you want to convince yourself and give yourself permission to do whatever it is, but you better ask the question, how does this affect the other people in my life? Because it certainly does. And this is a concept that Jesus introduced in the first century. No other world leader was saying this kind of stuff. When Jesus came on the scene, he started talking about you need to be thinking not just about yourself, but in everything you do, you need to think about other people. You need to think about how it affects them. You need to think about how it impacts their life. This is not just about you. It may involve you, but it's not just about you. Maybe we should get good at asking the question, who is this decision about? Really, really, really? Who is it about? Because you and I serve and love others through the decisions that we make. We serve others and we love others, or we don't through the decisions we make. So whatever decision you're getting ready to make, you need to understand it's bigger than just you, and it's bigger than just that decision. It's going to have a fallout, and it could be good, it could be bad, but you better think it through. Increase wisdom in this area and develop some good judgment. Ultimately, it's not something you can control. It's bigger than you. And this is huge. Number 3. Before you decide that, know this. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, get this. 2 different spectrums here. On one side of things, the desire for things to be perfect keeps us in indecision, right? Well, I just want it to be perfect. I just want this to be the perfect job. I'm just looking for the perfect this, and I just want it to be perfect in this event. I just want it to be perfect, and I don't want to decide until I know it's going to be perfect, and I don't want to do this until I know it's going to be perfect, and I don't want to get married until I find the perfect man, and right? It's just perfect, and I just want it to be perfect, and so you never decide anything. You just spin in a circle, waiting for things to be perfect, and you think it to death. On the other side of the spectrum, you got people who are like, well, I made a decision, and because it's not perfect, I guess I made the wrong one, right? Because it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect. And when it's not, as soon as they find out it's not exactly the way they perfectly wanted it to go, they start abandoning things and quitting things and starting over, and they go from job to job to job to job to job because they can't find the perfect job, because there is no perfect job. And they go from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship because they're trying to find the perfect guy or the perfect gal, and they're never going to find it because they don't exist. They go from decision to decision, from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing because they want something to be perfect, and they constantly live in the wishy-washy world of indecision. It's not going to be perfect. Relax. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know why? Because there's something called the grace of God. The grace of God that allows us to make mid-course corrections to help imperfect decisions. Do you know why it's not going to be perfect? Because you're making the decision and you're imperfect. It is impossible for imperfect people to make the perfect decision perfectly. Because of God's grace, we can adjust along the way and grow and mature and change and grow and mature and change. Now, does that mean you don't have to deal with the consequences of the past? No, it doesn't. You still have to deal with the consequences of past poor choices. That's a reality. But God's grace allows you to make mid-course corrections where you are because it's not perfect and still make progress in life. So because of God's grace, this is very important. There's no way back, but there's always a way through. Because of God's grace, even though you can't go back, you can always go further because there's always a way through. You got to know that. That's freeing, guys, because some of you are at a standstill. You're waiting for the perfect scenario, the perfect job, the perfect person, and you're missing out on life. Make the best decision you can. No, it's not going to be perfect because you're in it. And then, through God's grace, learn, grow, mature, change. Learn, grow, mature, and change. Make it great. Let me give you one example of this. One example of what this may look like in an area where people are constantly really getting this decision thing out of whack. Let's talk about marriage just for a second. Marriage. If I had a nickel for every time a young couple sat in my office through the years, and I would ask them this question. I always ask this question, always. And I don't do marriage counseling, pre-marriage counseling anymore. But when I used to do it, and from time to time, I still end up talking to couples for different reasons, and I'll ask this question, always. Why do you want to get married? Why? It's not a trick question. I'm not trying to make them doubt. I just want to know why. I mean, it's a very obvious question. You're getting ready to dump all kinds of money and inconvenience everybody on both sides of the family for the next however long. You'd better have a good reason for this, is the way I'm looking at it. So why do you want to get married? You know, and if I had a nickel for every time I heard something along the lines of, we're perfect. We're just perfect for each other. He's perfect for me. She's the perfect woman for me. And so I then very politely give them my pastor chuckle. Now on the inside, I'm rolling on the floor, right? But I can't do that out loud because that would be disrespectful. So I just, and then I try to help them understand that's not the wise way to go into it. Because it's going to take them about 30 minutes after the I do to realize he ain't perfect. She ain't perfect. We're not perfect for each other. So what do you do? What do you do when you're married and you realize in your marriage, in 30 minutes, that may be an exaggeration. But before the honeymoon's over, somebody's going to be like, oh, dang, didn't know that. Like, wow, that's really? Oh, she squeezes the toothpaste tube from the middle. We're going to have problems. Getting my own toothpaste tube. That's how you solve that one real quick. Anyway, you don't use more toothpaste. You know, it lasts twice as long because I thought it through. We're not perfect for each other. Now what? Now what? What do you do when you realize this big decision of marriage? Well, a lot of people go, when they realize we're not perfect for each other, well, I need a new man. I need to find the perfect man. Obviously, he's a dud. I need a perfect woman. Obviously, I made a mistake. I need to get another one, a different one. And then they go find somebody else who is also imperfect. You might want to clue into the common denominator in all your marriages. You. So anyhow, they go from relationship to relationship, marriage to marriage to marriage, looking for the perfect thing. There is no perfect thing. That's what some people do. Now, here's the right thing to do. Here's the best thing to do. Here's the wise thing to do. Here's the good judgment thing to do. Is when you realize, obviously, this marriage is not perfect because he's not perfect and I'm not perfect and she's not perfect and I'm not perfect, then you lean into the good, great grace of God and you learn and you grow and you mature and you change. You change and she changes. She changes and you change. You grow. He changes. Everybody changes. You change together. You learn. You grow and you change and you mature and you learn and you grow and you change and mature and you make mid-course correction. The mid-course correction is not, well, forget you. The mid-course correction, because of God's grace, is now. Now, this is not going to be perfect because we're in it. So let's make it great. Let's learn and grow and change together. Thinking about the marriage decision, ultimately you can't control the outcome. Do you know that? If you're single, you need to know going into marriage, you can't control the happily ever after. You can't control the happily all the time because you can't control them. You can't even control the ever after. Somebody may die really soon. You never know. So you go into it saying, okay, it's not about me trying to control the happily ever after. And this is bigger than me. The I do is bigger than you. Get that. That I do is so much bigger than you. And it's not going to be perfect. If I know those things up front, then I can go into marriage leaning into the grace of God and learn to make it great. By the way, in February, we're going to be doing a whole series on marriage and relationships. So we'll get to some of that stuff then. But do you see what I'm talking about? So okay, today, know these things before you make decisions. Now, here's what's going to happen. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to give you 3 different filters to put on the front end of this decision-making process. We're going to look into God's word, and we're going to discover 3 different kinds of filters that we can put in our lives on the front end. So when we have to make a financial decision, a business decision, a relationship decision, a health decision, whatever kind of decision, we can know these things that we've just talked about. So that kind of sets the foundation, and now run it through these filters. And when we do, we make better decisions. Because I've discovered that decisions are decided in the process of deciding. Decisions are decided in the process of deciding, and that's true for Christians and non-Christians. So that means if I get a better process, I'll make better decisions. I know what some of you are thinking, well, that's great, but I can't wait for the next 3 weeks because I got to make a decision by tomorrow. What do I do? Here's what you do, okay? You know these things up front. Get these things clear in your mind up front, and then you begin by asking God to help you increase in wisdom as you make this decision. And ask God to help you make good judgment-driven decisions. Let's look at this passage one more time, because get wisdom and good judgment, getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. The wisest thing you can do 2019 is getting wisdom. And no matter what you do, develop good judgment. Now, unfortunately, wisdom and good judgment often comes on the heels of not being wise and not using good judgment. But at least you're making decisions. At least you're moving. At least you're making progress. And you have the grace of God to lean into, not to make sure that you don't ever have anything negative, but to learn and grow and mature and change. And learn and grow and mature and change. I don't know what decision you're trying to make. I don't know what decision you're currently in the process of making. You know that very well. But I want us to end our time asking God to help us use wisdom and good judgment in this decision. And then in the next 3 weeks, we're going to apply these filters on the front side to help us bring clarity and focus to the decisions. It doesn't make it easier, but it will make it clearer. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for having Solomon write down these things that are just as important now as they were when he wrote them to his children. Wisdom and good judgment, I need it. We need it. Now, I don't know what decisions are represented in this room, on those that are watching online, and our other locations, but I know there's got to be some major ones that are on the table right now. Only you know all the details. And I'm sure there's some small ones peppered in here and there along the way. But Father, help us to understand that we can come to you and depend on your strength and your grace and your wisdom and the judgment that comes from knowing you and following your principles. That we can look to you and depend on you to help us navigate these things. Father, help me, help us together, not to try to control everything, to make the best decisions we can with what we have in front of us, and then trust you with the results. And help us to think bigger than just us. Help us to think about those we love and those who love us, the people that we're responsible for, the people whom our lives touch that are affected by all these decisions. It's never just about us. And help us to lean into your grace and let go of the expectation of perfection from us and from those around us. And we look forward to what we're going to learn together in the next 3 weeks. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so next week will be week 2 of Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, and we will be talking about that first filter. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to bring somebody with you, invite a friend, invite a neighbor, show up early, get the best seat you can get. You might have to find another service time at the location where you attend because it's getting packed and all that kind of stuff at some of our services, as you can see. And let's make better decisions together. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.